Rich, today we're going to talk about a topic that a lot of people may have not heard of before, and that is stagflation. So what is stagflation and how can people prepare for it?
Okay. Yeah, it's on a lot of people's minds. We're seeing a lot of similarities now to back in the 1970s when we had a really serious bout of stagflation. And in layman's terms, it's a stagnant economy coupled with inflation or higher consumer prices. There's really three elements to it. The first one is that stagnant economy, and a lot of people feel we're there because we've had now 2 months of negative GDP. The economy contracted, I want to say 1.6% 2 months ago, and last month it contracted 0.9%. Technically, that means we're in a recession, but a lot of people feel it could still get worse from here. The second component is high inflation, persistently high inflation, and we've got, since the past year, we've seen both higher PPI, producer price index numbers, and CPI, consumer price index numbers. So the CPI is like the highest levels in 40 years, and it did come down about 0.5% from June to July, but it's still 8.5% higher than it was this time a year ago. So that's still significant inflation, 40-year highs, and it's not going to end soon because the PPI, the producer prices that feed into that consumer price inflation, is still up around 10, 11%. So I think it's going to persist for a while. The last thing is the one piece that a lot of people don't feel is there yet, and that's high unemployment. We've had lower unemployment numbers. I think you can argue some of those numbers in terms of the great resignation and a lot of people leaving the workforce and no longer being counted. I think if we counted everybody we used to count, I think those numbers would be higher. But right now, it's still a pretty tight labor market. And that's probably the one component that's not there yet. But stagflation is pretty insidious. I'm sure you remember, like I did, the 70s. And back then, it's the worst of both cases. You have all of your assets are coming down in value, right? Your stocks, your bonds, your real estate, et cetera. And at the same time, everything that you need to buy to live, all your needs, are going up in price. So you have less to buy the things you need to buy, and they're costing more and more every day, every month, et cetera. So it's a horrible situation. I've just got a few tips that I think people can, put to use in this environment as we approach it, or if we're in it already. And the first one is just seek stability. I don't think this is the time to make wide sweeping changes in your life, changing jobs, going out on a flyer to test, some new concept or whatever. These are not the times to get away from stability. There will be enough variables in the economy already. Try to minimize the change in your life right now. Second one is just analyze your spending. A lot of people don't have a budget, don't balance their checkbooks even. I think now you need to know what you have, and you have to be careful that you don't overspend, spend more than you take in. Unlike our government, you actually have to balance your checkbooks if you want to stay on the good side of the law. Establish and or augment your savings. When I first started working here at Asset Strategies 26 years ago, one of the first things Glenn Kirsch told me, and my uncle and his partner started this company in 82, first thing he told me was pay yourself first every paycheck. And what that means is take a little bit of money off the top and put it in savings, build your future right now, first of all, and then take care of everything else. I think those are words to live by. So if you don't already have a savings plan, get one. Start putting those funds aside for the rainy day, because rainy days are coming. I see the clouds. Store your purchasing power. Put it into gold. And things like gold, real assets that can store that wealth, even as the dollar weakens and prices of all these things go higher. You'll preserve your purchasing power. I've said it before, you'll cryogenically freeze your purchasing power for the future. Last two things, I don't want to be political, but make your vote count. If we have government officials, and I don't care what party they're from. This is not about Republicans, Democrats, purple people, green people, yellow people, whatever. This is about people that cannot be fiscally responsible. If they are not good stewards of our dollar, if they're weakening our dollar daily by overspending their tax revenues, then you need to vote them out of office and get people in there that can manage our currency better than we have, because it's been a mess both sides of the aisle for a long time. And then the last thing is just be happy. Things are going to be tough, but they're going to be tough for everybody. We get better and we move along by helping each other along. Smile, do good things, work harder, be a better person, whatever it takes. We do all those things. I think we'll come out of this better than we went in.
Very sage advice. So what would be the worst case scenario that could happen to somebody, and how could they protect their assets through that?
Well, it's those unexpected bills. I think, all of a sudden something happens and you don't have that nest egg to tap into. You hear it all the time that so many people, at least in our country, and I think it's, spreading throughout the world. It's a horrible kind of contagion where we don't save, and people don't have, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days worth of cash. If something happened, they lost their job. You hear every day there's big companies, they're laying off people. You don't have a job, all of a sudden you have a big expense. What are you going to tap into? And that's where I think you need a mix of both cash, liquid funds that you can touch right away, and the best sort of cash, in my opinion, is precious metals, because they'll hold their purchasing power as the dollar weakens and inflation rises.
Very good. Very good advice again. Now, Asset Strategies has written a new gold report for us for 2022 that we have released on Escape Artist Store today.
Fantastic.
Did you have anything you wanted to touch on that report about?
No, it just, obviously I'm a believer in gold. You hear it from me every time I write or I talk. And it's not because I'm trying to separate you from your money. I'm trying to make sure you have that nest egg in place. We believe in what gold does for your portfolio. If you're novice, if you're new to this, or if you just need a refresher, that is a great tool to start with. I encourage everybody to go ahead and grab a copy, and we'll be updating that every year. So I think it's worthwhile. Let you know what's going on, and let you know some of the pitfalls to stay away from as well.
It's a great read, and Rich, that I love gold and silver too.
Yes,
so it speaks to me. So thank you very much for your time today, Rich, and we look forward to your next update.